Sussan Ley, welcome to the program.
Good to be here, David. Happy Father's Day.
Well, thank you very much, and to all the dads out there as well. Look, Donald Trump thought that military parade was beautiful. How would you describe it?
Some diplomatic remarks from the President there. What we saw was a demonstration of a significant military build-up in our region, David, and that gives us an opportunity here at home to reflect on our own defence policy and foreign policy. And we've been saying that defence spending should increase to 3% of GDP, and that's an important reminder. For us, it's about avoiding conflict. It's about peace through strength. But it's about recognising the increasing tensions in the region. So,
I mean, the images that we saw in that parade, and we've got one of them here, the long-range missiles in particular, they can be intimidating for the region to see some of these images. Are you saying that we need to increase our defence spending because of stuff like that?
We've said that for a while, and we've seen the Labor Party hollow out defence spending, using AUKUS funding to cannibalise the rest of the defence budget. Now, a significant display of military strength, as we saw from the Chinese Communist Party, is a reminder at this point in time. It's also a reminder, can I say, David, about what Prime Minister Albanese could do to step up engagement with regional partnerships. Regional engagement matters at this point in time, and your panellists were reflecting on the status of the Quad. It's now more important than ever that the energising of the Quad take place. We did it when we were in government before, and it is all about a peaceful, free Indo-Pacific.
Well, I will ask you about the Quad, but just to be clear, when we see those sorts of scenes from Beijing, do you believe China poses a threat to Australia's security interests?
Our trade relationship with China is strong, enduring and important. But I've said we need to be clear-eyed about rising threats in our region, and we need to stand up for our values and call out behaviour of the Chinese Communist Party when we see it crosses the line. And I just want to refer to the circumnavigation of Australia, the live firing exercises, which we strongly called out and the Labor government did not.
But does calling out China mean saying it is a threat?
What it demonstrates is we need to engage with our regional partners. That brings me back to the Quad. That's a significant forum in which Australia can play a very important and prominent role. Now, I'm not going to be directly critical of the Prime Minister. I'm going to say there is an opportunity for him right now to step up and push for that in-person meeting of the partners later this year.
So, yeah, I mean, this was the moment where you see Narendra Modi with Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, but he's there in China. It's a really significant moment. And we just showed Donald Trump's reaction to it as well, effectively saying, good luck to the three of you. Are you saying that Australia can actually still pull the Quad back together?
Look, I'll leave. India needs to navigate its own path through the current great power politics of our time, and it's traditionally been non-aligned. I don't necessarily agree with the remarks that the President made about the relationship with India. But the Quad is vital. Former Prime Minister Morrison energised the Quad, brought more activity, individual meetings of the four countries at the highest level. All of this should be taking place, and I await with interest to see whether our Prime Minister is going to step in and step up in that important forum.
What can he do? If Modi and Trump have an issue, what can the Australian PM do?
Well, this seems to be the Australian PM's reaction to a lot of things, to be a bystander. Look at his approach to the US relationship. Of course, there are four countries in the Quad. Australia is a very important one.
You think Anthony Albanese can bring them back together, Modi and Trump?
I think it's unfortunate that Anthony Albanese's relationship with the US is drifting the way it is now. Look, it's 300 days since the US election.
They just had a phone call.
They had a phone call, but has there been a White House readout on that phone call? Look, pleasantries and small talk are fine, but I think we need more at this time. There's a laundry list of issues that we need to raise with the US, and that should be done face-to-face, man-to-man.
Let's turn to migration. Your Shadow Minister, Nampijinpa Price, suggested Indian migrants were being brought in to boost Labor's vote. What went through your head when you heard about those comments?
David, the comments were wrong. They were not correct. They should not have taken place, and corrections have been made. They will not be repeated. They will not be repeated. But what I said subsequent to those comments, and what I want to say now as well, is to express my deep appreciation to the Indian community for all they have brought to Australia, for all they continue to bring, for their representation in every forum of Australian society, whether it be as community volunteers during bushfires in my own electorate or professionals in engineering, science, technology and medicine. We value, respect and love our Indian community, as we do all of our migrant communities. And I made that point subsequent to those remarks because I did hear from the Indian community that they felt hurt at what they heard.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see the community in Sydney later today. You said they were wrong. Jacinta Price hasn't said they were wrong.
Well, they were wrong, they have been corrected and they won't be repeated.
Did you counsel your Shadow Minister about this?
I won't go into conversations that I have with colleagues, and obviously for reasons that people would understand, we all have conversations.
Have you spoken? You at least tell us you've spoken.
Look, I speak with colleagues all the time.
But
I'm not going to go into...
Surely on this one, where something wrong has been said, something that's incorrect, something that has hurt the community, we would expect that as leader you would talk to your Shadow Minister.
David, I want to say in the clearest possible terms that yes, the comments were wrong. They shouldn't have been made. They were corrected. And Jacinta is undertaking her own engagement with the Indian Australian
This goes
community.
to your authority as leader. Surely you can say whether you spoke to and counselled your Shadow Minister.
My standard approach is not to discuss private conversations, and that's something that I think all colleagues respect, and it allows us to have those private conversations in the way that we need to, when we need to.
Let me ask you this. Often one of the hardest words politicians find to say is sorry. Senator Price is certainly not apologising. She's made that clear for the comments she made. Will you, on behalf of your senator, offer an apology?
What I have offered to the Australian Indian community is my full support, my deep appreciation, my ongoing warmth for what they bring to this country and how we value them as migrants. And I want to say this too, David. We vote every 3 years, but we are Australians every single day of every year.
Understand that, but you won't say sorry?
I want to say how I feel, and I want to say to the Indian community how much we value their contribution to this country. Now, that's not something, by the way, that I'm saying today or this afternoon when I meet with many of them in Sydney. It's part of my ongoing engagement with not just the Indian community, but the Chinese community and indeed all our multicultural communities ongoing.
But no apology?
Well, others will make their own remarks. I know that as leader, the most important message that I can send is that appreciation of our Indian community, heard directly from me as leader.
More broadly on migration, you think the number of permanent migrants being brought in is still too high. Which category do you want to cut? Is it the skilled visas or the family reunion visas?
Well, migration under this government is a complete mess, and I mean that, David, because you can never get the information from the government about what proportion of individuals are here, under what visas, with what conditions attached to those visas. All you get is this headline figure, and that's why Australians are losing confidence in the government with respect to its migration programs, because they can't actually, we don't know what those numbers are.
Well, we know in the permanent migration program, which you've said is too high, it's about 2/3 skilled visas and about 1/3 family reunion and a small number of humanitarian. So which is too high?
We have to get that right. And it's not just the permanent migration, it's the net overseas migration as well. And it's the people who are here for 6 months, 12 months on a visa, coming under skilled visas, as you say, whether it's family reunion, etc. But I want to give you an example of why the government has not got this program right. We value our skilled migrants. We know how much we need them, particularly in regional Australia where I come from. About 700,000 migrants came to Australia last year. Only 5,000 were able to work in the construction industry. Now, if this government needs to build more houses, and yes it does because it's failing miserably on 1.2 million homes, surely they would get a better balance of skilled migrants. We're asking for these numbers. Why, when the government announces this figure, do they not give us the detail?
But do you think there are too many skilled migrants coming in? Or too many family reunion visas?
The issue here is not about the migrants, but about the infrastructure. I want to make that very clear.
Well, you've said it's about the migrants. You've said the number is too high.
Yes, because what I'm hearing as I travel around the country is the pressures that communities are facing.
So which ones need to be cut?
the pressures that I'm hearing about are about the total number of migrants. Now, the issue about how we decide what numbers is something that should be made subsequently and should be made with deep understanding of where the government's numbers are, which we don't have. But this is not about any migrant or any migrant community. We value every single one of them and what they bring to this country. This is not a failure of migrants or migration. This is a failure of government policy to build the infrastructure, to build the services, to have the roads, to have the amenity in our cities.
And is it also...
Those pressures are being reflected wherever we go.
Do you also think migrants are hurting Australia's way of life?
Jobs, services, infrastructure. That's what I mean. It's not the migrants themselves. I'm a migrant to this country, David, incredibly grateful for the opportunities that it has given me and my family. And I know other migrants feel the same. And I welcome every single one of them. So the government has failed in not getting the infrastructure right.
So when you said migrants are putting pressure on the way of life in Australia, what did you mean?
I meant jobs, infrastructure, roads, traffic, the commute to work, hospitals, schools, and they're all failings of public policy when it comes to this government actually building the society and the infrastructure that we all deserve as Australians, including our wonderful migrant communities.
I want to turn to aged care. The government did back down during the week and it's now going to provide 20,000 immediate home care places. Do you think there's the workforce there to deal with that increase?
Yes, I do. And I want to reflect on what we achieved this week, and it was on behalf of elderly Australians who desperately need aged care packages in the home. We all know that difficult decision where someone in your family needs to go into residential aged care and how really, really difficult that is. The longer people can stay in their homes, the better. Unfortunately, under this government, breaking a critical promise about 83,000 new home aged care packages, Australians were dying waiting for these packages to be delivered. What we were able to do, Senator Ruston and the team, was to effectively force them to release 20,000 packages before the end of this year, 40,000 in total. In other words, make sure that they kept their promises. So they can spin it which way they like in terms of negotiations and deals. David, this wasn't a deal, it was a defeat. Not by us and on behalf of us, so to speak, but for every single elderly Australian that deserves better care.
On the workforce though, around 40% of the aged care sector are made up of people on temporary visas. The sector needs them badly. Do you have any problem with that?
The sector is ready. Now, we had a great work done
with the number of temporary visa holders working in aged care?
This is part of what you've just previously asked me. We need to have the right balance of migration.
Is that okay? Is that the right balance?
We need to have the right balance of migration. We welcome the people on visas who work in our aged care facilities. Many of them cared for my mum recently, and they do amazing work.
So
they do amazingly well.
No problem with them.
The point of your question, David, is the sector ready? The sector stepped up at a Senate inquiry and told us, you know, organisation after organisation, yes, absolutely, we're ready, we can deliver these packages. That's what matters here. How elderly Australians in their homes receive the care that they need. And thanks, as I said, to the fight that we've been able to have from the Senate and across my team, we've been able to achieve that for them.
I want to ask you about government spending more broadly. I mean, clearly people want better aged care services, health services, childcare services. You want to spend more on defence, as well, as you mentioned earlier. But there is also growing concern about the level of debt and deficit that we're facing. I mean, we've got these numbers I can show you from JWS research. 79% are now concerned about debt and deficit. Finding ways to bring spending under control proved diabolically difficult for the coalition at the election. How would you approach this issue?
I'm going to make some remarks in a major economic speech next week, and I said at the National Press Club when I became leader that we would set a clear economic narrative. And this set of remarks is about how we would manage the budget, because, David, we have to live within our means, and I think the responses to those questions demonstrate that Australians know that we have to live within our means. But right now we have government spending at 27% of GDP, risen from 24%. But at the same time, we have our living standards as Australians declining faster than any country in the developed world. So something is wrong here. And we've got a government with no fiscal restraint, with runaway spending, and with no agenda to actually deliver the productivity that they talked about so largely at their roundtable, but actually nothing came out of it to.
In the speech you're going to give this week, you're going to be talking about the culture of dependency that needs to be tackled. I recall Joe Hockey as Treasurer used to talk about lifters and leaners. Who are those who are too dependent, do you think, on government support?
I'll make the point that more than half of all Australian voters receive the bulk of their income from the public sector, from wages or subsidies.
Where's that figure from?
Well, that's well acknowledged, David, and I can provide it. I can provide it to you.
Does that include Medicare? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about the bulk of their income from the public sector, from subsidies or from welfare. Now, the point that I want to make here is that we want to empower Australians to contribute, to realise their talents, their energies, their ingenuity. We don't want a society where people are dependent on government, and that's the point that I'm going to make.
So should people on Job Seeker, for example, be nervous?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm very committed to pathways to work and getting the right skills for the right job for Australians.
So where do those supports need to be drawn back?
I just want to make this clear because I want your viewers to understand if we turn the clock back to COVID, spending was increased under us as a government. We exercised fiscal discipline at the end of COVID. This government came in and turned the tap back on, and that's why you're seeing the runaway spending.
But it's very difficult, isn't it? It's very difficult to identify where there's too much spending or support being offered, and you're unable to do that at the moment. I understand there's a long way to go in this term.
Look, I'll give you an example. I've said to the government, we will work constructively with you to restrain the spending in the NDIS. We know that it needs to be sustainable, that it is becoming so expensive it will overtake the age pension. But the reason we need to do this, David, with all of these issues that you talk about, having the most efficient spend for our money, is so we can look after vulnerable Australians. For those who are on job seeker, for those who are struggling, we need a strong budget. So we need a strong economy to deliver a strong budget so that we can look after the vulnerable. That will always be central to my considerations as Liberal leader.
Your Shadow Treasurer suggested things like a new baby bonus might be worth looking at. That would be a whole lot of extra spending, wouldn't it?
Lots of great ideas across my party room.
Are you going to look at a baby bonus?
Lots of great ideas across my party room. I'm not landing on announcing any of them here.
Can we afford stuff like that, though?
Well, we know that the government can't afford the trajectory of spending that it's on, and that's the strong point that I want to make in my speech next week. That I'm going to set out the principles by which we would manage the budget.
But then you might spend more on other things like baby bonus.
We'll make those announcements in due course. As I said, there's many great ideas, initiatives and thoughts across my party room, but everyone is unified that the way this government is spending, it simply cannot go on. And it's not in the interests of Australians either, because of course we are seeing living standards decline. Matched with this huge government spending, I mean, most Australians understand that this doesn't make sense. And
but you might spend more.
Well, we'll be very careful about what we spend, as we should.
Okay, on the tax front, there's a bit of a tax debate running. Are you open to changes to the GST?
We'll deliver tax policy that is lower, simpler and fairer, and you'd expect me to say that. I haven't met an Australian who tells me that they're not paying enough tax, and that will be the approach we take to every conversation that we have about taxation. Right now, let's look at what this government is doing. They're not talking about spending, they're not talking about the fiscal restraint that Australians expect of them. They're talking about taxing Australians more.
Okay, but are you prepared to look at the GST?
We will look at tax policy as a whole. We'll connect it to our economic narrative, and that's about empowering Australians, not giving them the opportunities they need to get ahead. The Liberal Party I lead will always back Australians who work hard, who take risks, who give back to this country, get up every morning and have a crack.
Final issue, net zero. The government's going to announce its 2035 emissions target in the next couple of weeks. The Coalition, of course, is still debating whether to even stick with the net zero by 2050 target. When the Morrison government committed Australia to net zero, you were pretty excited about the opportunities. You said, I think the net zero by 2050 aim is perfect. Has your thinking changed since then at all?
I was a member of a previous cabinet. Unsurprisingly, I supported the policy of the day. As Liberal leader, I'm committed to the policy that I have instigated now,
What
which
do you
is...
personally, as Sussan Ley, think about net zero?
David, this is about my role as Liberal leader. What Australians expect of me is to enunciate Liberal Party policy and direction. So I'll take a moment to do that if I may. We have a working group led by Dan Tehan. It's doing incredibly intensive, I may even say energetic engagement. There was a meeting of at least 30 of the parliamentary party this week. Experts came in, analysis was presented. There's a lot of work being done, and I want to reassure your viewers of that. We will deliver an energy policy that has two fundamentals: that we bring forward, that we have a stable, reliable energy grid for affordable energy for households and businesses, and that we play our role in reducing emissions. But you asked me about the 2035 targets, and I think this is really important. The government is silent on what it's doing here. It's delayed and obfuscated. It's really important that they demonstrate to Australians what is the cost of these 2035 targets when they bring them down. The cost of jobs, the cost of the economy, the cost of your electricity bill.
I understand that, fair enough. But your review, are you happy for that to run another 12 months, or do you want it fixed up quickly?
I'm not going to put an end date on it. It's not appropriate. I've said with our policies that are all under review, our values are not, but our policies are, that we'll take the time to get this right. But I just want to point you to the work that's being done now to reassure you and others that there is a lot of activity in energy policy because it's incredibly important. It is the economy.
You mentioned Dan Tehan's work. He's off to look at nuclear research in the United States as part of this. Who's paying for that?
Well, those questions should be directed to Mr. Tehan.
Okay.
But can I say he's doing an outstanding job leading a very important conversation on energy.
Final one on this.
Includes nuclear and gas.
Do you think the rollout of renewables and transmission lines should be accelerated right now or paused?
The government's made a complete mess of this.
What do you think?
It should not be done without social licence. And that's critical because when tractors chased the Prime Minister out of the Ballarat Bush Summit, that was the message they had for him.
Did accelerate the rollout or pause?
Take time to get it right.
Pause?
Well, what the government's done, David, is say that there'll be 82% of renewable electricity by 2030, and clearly that's not possible. Now, I know the role that renewables need to play in our future economy, but I also know that you have to get the transition right and you have to do it with people, and you have to include farmers and people who are affected and not just bulldoze over the top of communities, as we saw the government do with the offshore wind farm in the Hunter, as we've seen them do with transmission lines. Social licence is vitally important. Australians need to have their say on this.
Sussan Ley, really appreciate you coming in this morning. Thank you.